Hilti invests $500 million every year strictly for the construction industry.
We're talking about trying to make the first battery-powered job site.
When you talk about improving efficiency, how do your products do that?
One of the biggest innovations that we recently came out with is,
Tell us a little bit about Neuron.
for the tools that are coming, it's all going to be centered around Neuron.
This thing's been going viral all over the internet. It is hysterical, but it's so cool.
We make tools that are more expensive, but the return on investment cuts down in your biggest spend.
Break down Hilti's fleet program.
Hilti's ability to offer tool management really improves a lot of things that contractors need to do.
Welcome to Beers with Contractors.
There's my beer. Beer, down into my belly. All right, tradies, another week. Terry, cheers to you.
Well,
First week in a while that I have not messed with your camera equipment before the episode, so we're doing good.
yeah, things were still screwed up here, buddy. I don't know what
Hey,
you did.
I didn't touch it. I did not touch it this time. I know I'm known for tinkering and messing with stuff, so give me a break. Hey, let me get this up real quick. Before we get started, I got to do my thing. So, new subscribers. Yeah, I'm having trouble reading this name. Soul 56, NZ, Jonathan. We've got Troyware 309, Cow Dad. Was that you, Terry?
No, not the cow dad. The beer, yes.
And it's funny. This one popped up, and I don't know if this is a family member. It's called He Blake, like He Blake. And so nobody in my family says that they know that. We've also got Focal KC70, Miguel Garcia. And actually a few HVAC guys again. Man, we got to get HVAC back in here. I feel like I'm not sharing the love with the HVAC tech. But anyway, so Terry, it's been a rough week, huh? Really?
Yeah.
We were talking about the wild week it was. What was so crazy in your world that made it a wild week?
Well, if it wasn't one thing, it was everything. You know, the concept of having children and a full-time job, it throws you for a loop. Because you get everything ready, you get ready to go on Monday, and bam, your two kids are sick, and we're recovering from that. Had to put a truck in the shop. You know, you just got to roll with the punches and make the most of it. But by the end of the week, you're ready for a few beers and a little bit of downtime.
Yeah. Well, I know that this goes out on Thursdays, but yeah, it is a Friday how we're filming it today. And Terry and I are looking at coasting into a nice weekend. For those that don't know, Terry and I had a awesome time this last weekend at our construction camp fundraiser.
Yep.
And you didn't have to pull any of the cement trucks or 53 footers this time. So you probably feel amazing, don't you?
Oh, yeah. No, last year was great. Felt like I was going to die. But, you know, it's always good to have a few heart palpitations while raising money for kids. But no, this year was great. The industry partners that came out, the teams that came out, it was a great time.
Yeah. It was interesting that during our fundraising event, we're pulling cement trucks with teams of 10. We're pulling box trucks with teams of 10. And that sets up time. And all the companies are construction companies. And I got to take a jab at our electricians out there. I noticed that there were no electricians out there. And there was some jokes by the plumbers that it was because they don't get out of bed until like 12 o'clock on Saturdays. So did you hear the smack talking coming from the plumbers?
Yeah, no, they were very good at that aspect of it. But I think what was even better is we had a team from OU's construction program out there. And so you got a whole bunch of 20, 21-year-old guys out there getting ready to pull this truck. And they're going up against this team of plumbers. And I think they underestimated that old man's strength. Because if I'm not mistaken, they came in second. And the old men, they took it home, winning again.
That was awesome, man. And it was funny that it was OU's rugby team that was pulling, not their construction science kids.
Some of those kids are in the program. I think that's how they're making that correlation.
As long as that's confirmed. And, of course, in our natural style, my team came in dead last. Because, honestly, they'd rather go drink beer and bid on the auction items and be out there busting their ass.
Yep.
You know, pulling those trucks. But it was a good time. So, speaking of which, one of our supporters, and actually I should mention, if you want to learn more about our construction camp, it's constructmyfutureok.org. Please look it up. It's a fun thing. We do it every summer, building on our internship program now. So, but on to our guest. Terry, you know this person is a celebrity. I've been working now for 8 months to get him on, but his parole officer wouldn't allow it. His boss wouldn't allow it there for a little bit. He got busy, but finally this last week I was like, hey, we got an open slot. Come on. He texted me back immediately. And I was surprised because typically he doesn't text me back ever. I'm joking. But I'm excited because this is the first time on our show we have had a tool manufacturer on. And Terry, just as well, us contractors are really selective about our tools, aren't we? We're not picky at all when it comes to whether or not it's DeWalt, Milwaukee. And Terry, I know you're a big Ryobi fan, obviously. But what I want to do is introduce what I would consider one of my good friends. We've been working together almost 7 years. He is actually account manager for Hilti North America. Been doing this 18 years. He's finally grown up. And his name is John Abrams. John Abrams with Hilti North America. Good to have you on the podcast, sir. How are you today?
I'm doing good, Will. What's up, man? It's good to be here, finally.
Yeah, finally. I see you're in a company
I've had a
truck.
baby since you first asked me to be here.
Hey, no excuses, right?
Oh, he's got all the time in the world at this point.
You know what I love about this is John said he'd be on the podcast, Beers with Contractors. So he shows up in a company truck drinking beer. Just kidding. I know you're not drinking. Yeah.
Well.
Oh, man. Yeah. Well, John, listen, I'm glad because many of the folks that know me know that I'm a huge fan of what you guys do. But let's just start at the beginning. Tell me a little bit about your background. Tell us about Hilti, how the hell you got wrangled into working with Hilti, because that's been a long journey. And then we'll kind of get going down to the technology stuff. You guys are doing some cool stuff. So let's just start back with, where you started.
Yeah. So, man, I kind of grew up around Hilti. My dad started off in Hilti as an account manager, kind of what I do now in Puerto Rico. Hilti is the reason I'm in Oklahoma now. So it's been a big part of my life in general. And, I went to college after high school and decided that, college is really expensive. And I didn't really learn much except how to drink beer. So I came back that summer and my dad gave me an opportunity. He opened a couple of doors for me to get in my foot into Hilti, and been there ever since, 18 years of my life. So that's kind of my journey with Hilti. That's how I got in there. I've done several roles throughout the years. Started at customer service, just taking calls from customers all around the country, and you never know what kind of phone calls you're going to get. So that was really an awesome experience as far as learning what customers go through, what kind of things and, challenges that they face on a day in, day out basis. From there, I ran the store in Oklahoma City for 2 years, and I've been an account manager ever since, meaning I'm out in the field. I'm in my office right now, which is my truck, as you can see. And my job is to go to you, the customer. We're face to face and learn about your company and kind of how Hilti can fit in and help you succeed.
Well, listen, I want you to give yourself a little bit more credit because you do more than just drive around in your truck all day. For any of you that are interested in learning more about Hilti, if you work with them long enough, you get a lot of free stuff from them. The swag, that's the way to a man's heart in construction, right? If you want to get motivation from your front line in construction, hats, shirts, swag, all that stuff, man, it
stickers.
Speaks volumes. Yeah, anything.
The amount of times I've been asked for stickers.
Stickers? Like, really? I've never
People
once gotten
love
a sticker from
stickers.
you, Abrams. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
You never asked, Will. You always
Yeah.
wanted the Yeti cooler.
Yeah. Well, I know. Well, and hey, those Yeti coolers are actually pretty cool. They're not my company colors, but that's okay. So most people, they don't see Hilti on the aisles at Home Depot or Lowe's, obviously. So they may not know a little bit of the background and just all the advancements in technology that you guys are doing. So tell me a little bit about the history of Hilti, because it started like forever ago under a very specific set of tools. So
Yeah. So 1941, Hilti was established, and we had one tool. That was our powder actuated fastener, which was a huge innovation back in the day. From that technology, we jumped into other things like we were the first to market a roto hammer, a pneumatic roto hammer. And from that success, we just jumped into other things technology wise, tools, fasteners, Firestop. And now we're getting into really cool things like software services, even AI type things.
So, John, Hilti's ability to look at what that contractor or the contracting industry is needing and respond to that, that's what drives you guys forward, right?
Yeah, so we're unique compared to our competitors. We are a face-to-face customer. We're a direct sales force. We're in front of our customers day in, day out. Like Will said, you don't see us at Lowe's, you don't see us at Home Depot. We focus solely on the commercial, professional construction industry. And that means we go to you directly.
And a lot of the tool solutions that you guys offer, they're going to be specifically designed to meet the needs of one aspect of the industry. Like you were talking Firestop, which some of the contractors I know that are using that, it's making their life so much better.
Yeah, so every solution we come out with, a lot of it's really inspired by our customers. And that's a product of our daily interactions. You know, a lot of the products that we come out with are a direct result of feedback that we get from customers, the challenges that they face every day, whether it be material costs, labor shortages. Everything is focused around how do we make construction better for them. So that's a lot of how we go to market.
Yeah. Well, we've known each other for a while, going on 7 years, and it is kind of interesting. Like, I've given you guys feedback on things, and it's like, that doesn't exist yet, but let me get with the team. And then, bloop, 2 years later, it's like, oh, there's that thing. And I say 2 years, sometimes it's 6 months, which is nuts. So, and I live obviously in the concrete and masonry space. I mean, you guys are in all industries now, right? I mean, you guys have covering everything from HVAC to plumbing to electrical. What am I missing here, John?
This episode is sponsored by Performance, the bonus system designed to increase profits for your construction company. Performance incentivizes your production team for more efficient installs and rewards them when they beat your preset labor goals. So no more milking the clock and no more unnecessary gas station trips. Performance drives your team to work harder and smarter. Every construction company on Performance has seen a 7% decrease in direct labor costs or more. Click the link in the description or visit performance.co to schedule your demo today. That's PER, MANCE.co. Reward your team, retain your team, grow your profits. Performance.
Yeah, well, just to kind of give you a glimpse of how we're set up here in the city, and this is something we roll out all across the U.S., is people like myself, account managers, we don't just go and call on everybody. We want to specialize in a specific trade. So like here in Oklahoma City, there's 7 of us. I'm responsible for masonry, demolition, waterproofing, and general contractors. We've got a rep that covers strictly interior finish and framing. We got mechanical reps, electrical, steel and metal. So how we deploy our resources, we don't want to be everything to everybody. We want to make sure that we are an expert at what we do and the trade that we cover.
I remember that for a little while, you know, because you were a rep for masonry and foundation stuff, that you kind of took a hiatus from us. You went into civil and started working on like highway systems. And I'll never forget, I saw you. I was so happy to see you. I was like, oh, it's John. It's long lost John. And then, you know, you were very tan because you've been sitting out on highways for years. But I mean, you guys were getting to the point of testing out like saw blades on concrete roadways and how much they're burning through the saw blades and how many linear feet can you get. And it's weird. I don't even think you were charging people for that. You were just trying to give a good cost estimation. So, I mean, you're running into all sorts of weird things that are trying to think outside the box for saving people money. Like, what's some of the top 1 or 2 things that you found in working with contractors day to day that have been just like, hey, you can save way more money doing this?
So that's a really broad question. Man, it really depends on the contractor. And that's kind of where our daily interactions kind of come into play, is you never know what challenges a customer's facing until you go and get to know them and really ask them, what are they running into? Now, for the most part, you get a lot of the same answers, right? At the end of the day, people want to be profitable. So we try to look at their applications, their high frequency applications. First of all, can we remove any steps? right? To cut down on time. If we can't remove steps, or we remove some steps, the second thing is, okay, can we speed up the steps that are remaining? And that's where our things like our tools, our hammer drills, our core rigs, things like that that are more efficient, more productive, that kind of plays a role in how productive our customers are and how profitable they are. And at the very last thing, if we can remove a step, if we can simplify a step, or if we can make it more efficient, then that's something that's very appealing to our customers.
Well, you talk about improving efficiency or removing a step. And with the way that construction's going now, the part that needs to be worked on is the level of either skill within the employee or reducing the amount of work that employee does. So how do your products do that? And specifically that Firestop aspect of it, that's just seems like it's revolutionized the whole interior framing market.
So specifically to Firestop, one of the biggest innovations that we recently came out with is our Firestop products that remove the sealant application of it. So basically, like we've got a product called Top Wall Track. In the past, basically you have to frame your wall, you have to put your drywall in, and after everything's been installed, you have to come back, you have to fill those joints or penetrations with mineral wool, which is not the greatest thing in the world to work with. It's got a lot of fiberglass in there. It's a pain to work with. And then you have to use your sealant. It's a lot of time consuming and a lot of steps that you have to come back for just to finish that wall. With our Top Track Seal is a product that you put on your track as you're framing, okay? As you shoot your track, you're fire stopping your application at the same time. So that removes the whole coming back process and having to install the mineral wool or the Firestop sealant. So that's one way we can eliminate steps and also simplify them. A lot of the Firestop, it's a skill that not many people have, and it takes a lot of learning curve to know exactly how much Firestop, what type of Firestop, how much do I apply, and what kind of wall do I have, what's my gap. All these things play a role in how you treat that application. And things with Top Track Seal eliminate all those steps and all the human error.
There is a lot of skills required, but the majority of contractors I know usually just have one person who's doing it, and there's very little training they've gone through. They give them the product, give them 30-minute intro and say, here, have at it.
And I find this really interesting because we've done this where, you guys have come to us and it's just like, hey, we don't know if this is going to work or out. Let's just do a training in the shop. And we just blow through like fasteners and bits and blades and all sorts of things. I find that when we're talking to folks about Hilti, that there's commonly this thing of, there's the expense, because they're not thinking of the speed and efficiency and cost of downtime on the tools. That's why I'm a big fan, and that's why I'm loving some of the technology. And I want to talk about Neuron here in a little bit. But, what is the biggest roadblock that contractors have about adopting some of this new technology and tools that you think needs to be changed in the market? I mean, where do we need to change and get better?
That's a great question, and that's a puzzle that I try to solve on the daily.
Wait,
we have found
so
out.
You saying that we're all open-minded and we're open to change? Don't worry, John. I'm just putting you on the spot, buddy.
No, I understand. Here's what we found out, Will, is a lot of times customers are looking at the initial costs of the tools and fasteners that they get, when really we're 1% of their overall spend. When they deploy their assets and their cash to run their business, a lot of it goes into labor, a lot of it goes into material cost, there's overhead, of course, and then there's a little sliver called profit, which is anywhere from 6 to 8% in general, after everything's been paid for, right? Am I in the right ballpark there, Will?
Yeah. If at all, 6 to 8%. Wait a minute, negative or positive 6 to 8%?
Yeah, if everything goes right.
Yep. Yeah, 6 to 8 is common.
We believe that number should be a lot higher. You guys should get a lot more of that pie. Now, we lie in the material side of that cost. And in that material cost, we account for, if you were to buy everything from Hilti to run your business, we're probably 1% of your material cost, overall material cost. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. We're talking about one, but in some customers' mind, that 1% seems like 30%, right? And a lot of times, it's not that they don't get the value of it, is that we struggle to get to that C-suite ownership level to really explain the value of what Hilti can bring to the table. And I get it, 1% to an owner, they're not that interested in talking to me. They're worried about the 99. But what Hilti can do is that 1%, they can affect the biggest part of your pie, which is your labor, right? So that's kind of our value proposition is, yes, we make tools that are more expensive than what you would get elsewhere, but the value and return on investment from those tools really cuts down in your biggest spend, which is your labor and the productions.
Well, if you look at all the things that you can control when it comes to working with your labor crew, you want them installing a product or putting work in place. And if you can improve their productivity, you're better off. And Hilti's ability to offer tool management, tool lease, tool tracking, I think really improves a lot of things that contractors need to do. Can you kind of talk about some of that?
Yeah, it's actually awesome that you bring that up. There was an independent study done on just the construction industry as a whole, right? So I'm not talking to any one specific customer, just in general. And the results that it came back with is that 30% of a tradesperson time is actually spent doing the actual work. 70% of that is spent managing workflow and processes when it comes to logistics, timesheets, taking product to the jobs that it needs, the products, meetings, and all this stuff, right? So what we found is okay, we play in 30%. That's where we can make up some ground. But we found a big opportunity in that 70% of the time. If we can improve that 70% of your processes and your workflow, then that 30% actually becomes a little bit more impactful. That 30% can go up to 35, 40. So here recently, we've actually been focused not only on our hardware products like our roto hammers to make that 30% more productive, but we've actually deployed a lot of investment, services, and software to be able to cut down on that 70% of time that's lost in hours that are just managing the business and the workflow.
John, you mentioned this about 30%. So in that study, how much was bathroom and smoke breaks in regards to I'm just kidding. We don't have to talk about that. I would be interested to see this study. It's kind of like a football game. You watch 3 hours of football, and then you find out that there's actually only about 12 to 14 minutes of play in the actual game. So I can totally see that in the day-to-day. I'm in the home services world, obviously, but you've seen it, Will.
How often have you introduced a new tool to one of your crews and seen their production go up?
Oh yeah, and I will throw a big kind of unpaid kind of endorsement out here. Terry, you've borrowed some of my TE3000 jackhammers, which, by the way, Terry, do you know what TE stands for in Hilti?
No, I don't.
Too expensive. Just kidding. No, I mean, it's weird if people look at these things. And by the way, I want you to get into the fleet program here in a little bit, John, because not a lot of people know of that existence and just how awesome it is. But man, these things hit way harder than any other product. They're lighter than most products. And, the shock factor on the shoulders, the safety factor and the fatigue factor in it, it's just really hard to explain until you've gotten one of those. And that's where it's just holy smokes, man. I love those things. I kind of laugh when some of my guys use the TE1000s and 2000s. I'm like, why not get the big gun? I'm thinking the Doom video game, get the BFG, right? The TE3000, which that would be one of my feedback points to you, John, is, boy, Hilti loves their acronyms. for some odd reason on these names. But yeah, so we obviously fleet our tools. And the reason I fleet a lot of my tools rather than buying them is because of some of the expense, but also the turnaround. But when people ask me about fleet, I have a hard time describing it to them in a way that they understand. So break down Hilti's fleet program just in a sweet little chunk that a Neanderthal like Terry can understand.
Yeah, it's a fleet. You ready for this, Terry?
Yeah, I have my listening ears on.
Fleet.
Please.
Enlighten me.
Oh, yeah.
No, the fleet it's a different option for our customers in how to get the tools they need to get the job done. So for the longest time, right, the industry, they purchase their tools because that's the only option they've ever had. And when you really think about it, nobody really wants to own tools that in a couple of years might not be working. They might not have them anymore. They're less productive over time. So it's really an expense that is depreciating over time, and the return on productivity is constantly going down. So fleet is a different way of looking at how do I get the tools to get the job that I need to get done and move on to the next job, right? At the end of the day, I don't want to own a bunch of tools. I want to use the tools to get the job done so I can get paid, right? Owning tools also, you own all the costs of upkeeping those tools and making sure they're working properly. Fleet kind of eliminates that, and it takes all of those expenses and we put it on us. So all you have to do is go out there, use the tools, go be productive, go get your job done, and we take care of the tool part. What does that mean? It's a lease program. So you use the tools, we manage them for you. So that could mean if you're a new company or a big company, it doesn't matter. Cash flow is a huge part of keeping a business running. Fleet is a really good way to tool up your company and not have a huge chunk of your cash deployed all at once. So you pay monthly for the use of the tools. The repair service, for the life of that tool and the time that you have it, you don't have to worry about repair quotes, replacement quotes, whether, hey, do we need to replace it? Do we need to repair it? How many times have we repaired it? It doesn't matter. It's covered. All right, so we guarantee you a working tool for the duration of that term. There's things like, theft coverage. Theft is something that happens on the job site. It's unpredictable. A lot of customers don't buy insurance for their tools because they see them as throwaways. Well, Hilti covers your tools on fleet, and it kind of limits that exposure, that financial exposure that you have when a theft does happen. We do tool upgrades. So we refresh your tools on a timely basis. So you always have the best tools working for you, the newest tools. If there's a new technology out there that's more productive than the tool that you currently have, you trade up to it. Yeah. So you're always staying on top of the game as far as the technology that's out there and being as competitive as you can be out in the market.
It's also got to improve some of the accounting too, because you're getting a monthly cost that you can take against your business instead of trying to, depreciate 150 different tools out there in the shop.
That's a great point. It just simplifies your budgeting. On day one how much you're going to spend on let's say you have 6 screws and you allot them a certain number of tools. On day one, every month how much you're going to spend with that to keep those screws running. You can extend that out to the next 4 years. You know exactly how much you're going to spend. So it just brings clarity and transparency to your tool cost.
Well, and by the way, I want to clarify on one thing, John, that you mentioned before. Theft is never an issue in construction at all. Like, we never have thievery. I mean, I can imagine you've probably been on Facebook Marketplace from time to time, John, and scrolled through and seen Hilti tools and thinking, I wonder how many of those that I sold. But it's been a game saver for us. Also, it's just the fact of guys lose tools less. Also because they know that they can be Bluetooth tracked with some of the technology you guys have and things like that. I do want to kind of segue into some of the new stuff you guys, and when I say new, it's really not new. You guys have been working on this a while. Terry, have you seen this crazy ass tool Hilti's got called the Scorpion XO?
Oh yeah.
It is so much fun. And I mean, this thing's been going viral all over the internet. It is hysterical, but it's so cool. And, we don't have a lot of use for it in our industry, but got to demo it, and it's so cool. But, John, it seems like the Scorpion and the Exo and the J-Bot, like, this is kind of like the whole new series of things coming up. So, like, for anybody that doesn't know this and hasn't gone down TikTok looking for this yet, like, what are some of what is all that stuff? What is it?
Yeah, so we're actually getting into like robotics and augmentation. One of the biggest things that I constantly receive feedback on is shortage of labor and shortage of skilled labor at that. So at Hilti, we're thinking to ourselves, how can we make guys more productive? Not only that, but how can we make work safer for them? The guys that build our hospitals, they build our roads, our schools, our houses, they deserve to go home and have a good life and be able to play with their kids and all that and not be hurting when they get home. So a lot of the things that we're coming out with, safety plays a big role in those products that we launch. Like you mentioned, the Exo T. I like to call it the Scorpion because it kind of looks like you got a little scorpion coming out of your back. But that allows, it's strictly mainly for demolition industry, but it allows workers to be able to do a very hard, labor intensive job and not be worn out at the end of the day. So essentially, it just takes a lot of the weight and impact of a tool, and it transfers it to your back, your bigger muscles, so your shoulders don't burn up during the day, your joints don't hurt at the end of the day, and for the owner, as far as the value that brings to their company, it makes them more productive. You can put bigger tools that you typically, a guy wouldn't be able to hold over his shoulder. You can now use a bigger tool to get more done and have a worker that's more satisfied, that's more willing to come back the next day and enjoy doing that type of work.
So with a lot of this new technology coming out, John, I mean, what are the next steps? Because I know you guys are starting to utilize a lot of the Bluetooth technology, a lot of performance technology through Neuron. And I know we haven't talked about that, but, I wasn't expecting when I met you a few years ago that, hey, by the way, we're going to have an exoskeleton. And it's like, what? You're going to do what? And then all of a sudden now that you got the J-Bot running around, all self-automated, drilling holes in buildings. So if you can disclose, obviously, with the small company that Hilti is, what are some of the new things coming to market through Hilti that we should be keeping an eye on TikTok and Instagram for?
Well, so I'm not privy to the big things. They're pretty good about keeping secrets. I can tell you this, Will. Hilti spends every year about $500 million on research and development,
Holy
strictly
smokes.
idea creation on making the construction industry better and more productive. We've got a big wave of new products coming out at the first of the year. So I could tell you that there will be some cool stuff. Now, what that is exactly, I'm not privy to. I can tell you, though, that kind of the pie in the sky goal, though, is to make a cordless job site to where you've got one battery platform, and regardless of the tool choice or application that you've got going on, that you no longer need to run cords, it can all be battery operated. And that's some of the big leaps we've made in battery technology, is to be able to power really big tools that in the past we really haven't had the technology to be able to run them at an efficient way that's profitable for our clients.
Yeah, and being in industry for a while, we saw the introduction of battery tools, and they were so-so, they were weak, but it seems like over the past few years, they've really just been able to hit just as hard, and they run longer. You're not changing them out every hour. You're running half a day with them. And so if you're going in that direction, that is going to be significant.
Hey, listen, I just need to know, John, when the Hilti batteries are going to be able to hook to Terry's Tesla, and then when those will be cross-compatible. I don't know if there's a mixture of Hilti / Elon Musk stuff going on in the future, but just joking, of course.
Well, I'm hoping at some point we'll have like a robot assistant that will be able to take a Hilti hammer drill and just, you tell it to go drill holes and it does it.
Well, you have
We've got
one. It's called the
something-
J-Bot.
Yeah, we've got a J-bot that kind of does that already.
Well, you can keep that J-bot like that size because I'm not in fear of that thing right now, right? You start getting them my size and giving them hammer drills, I think we're going to have a different conversation.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Well-
keep them nice, big, and slow.
Yeah, like me.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's one of those where it's okay. I'm still a little pissed that there's not a Hilti weed eater or anything like that out there yet. Or maybe there is. It's just the acronym didn't work out on the WEED hyphen 2634B model number. But yeah, so there is one last thing I wanted to mention, John, with you guys at Hilti. We really didn't touch base on Neuron and kind of the new battery technology. We're talking about trying to make the first battery powered job site. Like, no need for all the electric and extension cords. Obviously, that's a big leap.
Right.
But Neuron's been kind of a cool little thing that has getting you guys in that direction. So for, those that don't understand what that is, tell us a little bit about Neuron.
Yeah, so Neuron's been a huge breakthrough for us in the cordless department. It's the battery technology that Neuron brings has kind of enabled us to be able to bring to market these bigger tools, like a 30-pound jackhammer that can be run on batteries, a saw, 12-inch saw that can replace a gas saw, one battery that can power all your tools regardless of size. That's been a huge leap in the technology. And this kind of the building blocks is for the tools that are coming in the future. It's all going to be centered around Neuron. And what's really cool about Neuron, it's not only that it can power bigger tools, but they're smart batteries. So we're making everything smart. So you don't have to think so much about it. What I mean by smart batteries, so the battery collects information and data that's relevant to our customers. It gives you health status of the battery real time. It gives you the health status of the tools that it's been on real time, and it feeds you location data of where your tools are at any one point. That's one of the biggest things that we go back to, that 70% of workflow and processes. A lot of that time is spent on, where are my tools? How can I allocate the tools that I have in the right jobs that require them? We see a lot of over purchasing because of that. It's not that you don't necessarily have a tool available, you just don't know that you do. So that visibility and transparency really gives our customers a lot of information and data to be able to make more informed decisions on deploying their assets or whether they need to go out and purchase one and things of that matter. So that's Neuron in a nutshell.
Well, it wasn't that long ago Will was talking about emptying out all his trucks, getting all the tools lined out, and then just being amazed at how much they actually had. And so if he would have been able to track his tools, he probably would have been able to better allocate his resources and be more efficient.
No, if I would have held that team member more accountable to tracking the tools, I wouldn't have held that much. But then again, granted, we haven't converted a lot of our fleet over to Neuron, but our team is really excited about the full conversion. Mm-hmm. Because, you don't have to run back to the car and be like, oh, this battery doesn't fit this drill, right? It's like, no, the battery converts to everything. And it's just so much easier. Man alive, it's amazing.
Well, one question, John, I don't think we've talked about is we do the kids camp where we introduce young kids to construction industry jobs and career pathways. And then Hilti's been significantly involved in some of the college level fundamentals labs and donating tools. Is that just Hilti as it is here in Oklahoma, or is that company wide that they get involved with the community?
That's a company wide effort. Now, locally, we are free to kind of focus our energy and efforts into causes that we see, value in. A lot of that has been working with Will and Build My Future, which is great. A lot of that also aligns with the feedback we get from our customers, which is, as the older labor force is aging out, they're having a really hard time finding young labor. And we understand that because we're a part of that industry. So we want to see our customers succeed. Their success means our success. And so we invest a lot of our time and efforts in also making that happen. And that means introducing the trades to younger kids. A lot of it really is just education and exposure to it. A lot of these kids aren't exposed to different avenues. Like, it's kind of like me. I thought after high school, you go to college, that's the only route.
Yeah.
And I found out real soon that's not the only route. You can make a really good career in living for yourself in the trades or working alongside the trades like myself, which I service them. So yeah, that's an industry-wide effort. And here in Oklahoma City, we're really proud to work with Will and other customers in that effort as well.
Well, John, as we come to a close, I always ask our guests, many of them know that I'm the patron saint of screwing things up. And I always say, if you're going to screw something up, do it bad enough that you can brag about it. Screw it up like a Texan. Right? So in your career, your lengthy 18-year career at Hilti, what's a screw up you made that maybe at least you can brag about it and help somebody else out there?
Okay. That's a long list to pick from.
We want the worst one, John. The very worst one.
Okay. I'll tell you one that always comes to mind. And, you look back at it and all you can do is laugh. But at the time, it was terrible. And I won't name the customer, but I had a customer in Oklahoma City, a big general contractor. They weren't necessarily a Hilti customer at the time. And so I was very eager to get their business. And I got a phone call from one of the project managers. And they had we sell a rebar scanner. Well, we've scanned your house before with this. It's a PS1000. Basically, it allows you to see rebar in concrete. So if you can't hit it for whatever reason, or you're trying to avoid it for integrity purposes, it kind of tells you where the rebar is. So they had a situation where they had a need for this tool, and I got all giddy about it because they don't do a whole lot of business with me yet. And so I was going to make this happen that day. I had to drive to Tulsa to pick up this tool, right? So the customer calls me in the morning. I'm like, no problem. I will get it to you today. I'll show it to you today. Instead of, setting expectations of like, hey, let me get the tool in. We'll do it next week. It'll be nice and proper, right? No, I threw all caution to the wind. I was going to make it happen that day and I was going to impress them, right? So I drive to Tulsa. I pick up this tool and I'm driving back and I run out of gas at that exit on I-35 when you're trying to get on. It's like where all the intersections meet, all the highways meet, right? I was barely in the city and I run out of gas. And so I'm parked over in the highway and I walk my butt to, there's a Shell station across the bridge, right? And so I'm running and I buy a gas tank and I fill it up with gas and I run back to my car. Very windy day, by the way. Very windy day. And all right, so I put enough gas in there just to get to the gas station. Yep. Gas all over me, spraying all over me as I'm trying to fill up my. Okay. So this very important customer is waiting for me. And I'm on the side of the highway putting gas and I smell like gas. He calls me and he's like, hey man, we're all here. The owner's here. All the key project managers here. We're just waiting for you. I'm like, all right, I'll be there. I got slowed down. Don't worry about it. I'm like, I smell like gas. I can't go there smelling like gas. So I rush home, take a shower, still smell like gas. Didn't matter. I rush back. They've been waiting for me for like an hour and a half. I get the tool out. Battery's dead. So I can't run the tool. And, a minute into realizing that, the owner starts walking away. The project manager starts walking away. And it's just me and my battery and just the fumes of gas in my nostrils all by myself. And that was a terrible day. I went home and cried and didn't go back to work.
Hey, we could have a whole other episode, John, on the grace of the leadership and HR department at Hilti. But That's hysterical.
Hey, but you know what? You know what, Will? 3 years later, they're one of my best customers.
There you go. Yeah. Well, good for you. Now I'll give you less shit.
I
now that
just
I'm-
had to wait 3 years for them to forget about all that first.
No, they had to wait 3 years to get rid of the gas fumes that you left.
What you might be underestimating is that pity sale that they just like, oh, that guy, if we don't buy that tool from that guy, we know he's getting fired.
Oh, yeah. The sympathy sale. Oh, that's great. Well, John, we've all been there, buddy. Well, Abrams, listen, I appreciate you. You know you're one of my favorite people in the world. I think what you do is awesome. I would love to do kind of like a tool comparison shot, just even with some of your impact drivers, of getting some of these things out, just to represent like the difference that y'all's tools make in the world. Our guys love them. Honestly, if they get handed a different brand tool, they're like, what the heck is this, right? And we've kind of created some cult-like following in our own organization with Hilti. So obviously, if anybody wants to learn more about it, they can probably look it up online. But, if there's somebody listening here, because you service all industries and you've helped some garage door companies, some electricians, if they're in a local market and they want to learn more, what's the best way for them to get connected with somebody like you that can kind of take them through the process real slow?
Yeah, so if any contractors are out there listening and are interested in kind of what type of value we could bring to their company, we're just a phone call away. The best way to get in touch with your local account manager, if you don't know who they are, is call that 800 number. It's 800-879-8000. That takes you to our customer service line that's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And they will get you in touch with your local rep. And you guys can set up a meeting and just discuss your company and what kind of challenges you have and see how we fit into your business.
Yeah. Well, John, thanks for that. I appreciate you. Terry, I appreciate you sometimes. And I did mess with your equipment today, even though we had technical difficulties, but we're good.
Yeah. Give it another week. You'll screw something up.
That's right. Yes, I will. Yes, I will. So to all you contractors out there, we appreciate you. You guys, contractors and tradies, you guys kick ass. We appreciate you for listening to another episode of Beers with Contractors. We will see you next week.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Beers with Contractors. We hope you enjoyed our chat as much as we did. Before we say our final goodbyes, a friendly reminder. Beers with Contractors encourages responsible drinking. If you choose to enjoy a beverage during our time together, please do so in moderation and only if you're of legal drinking age in your country or state. Furthermore, the advice and insights shared in this podcast are for informational purposes only. Always consult with professionals and experts in your field, and be sure to follow local laws and regulations regarding licensing and permits. We're here to help, entertain, and inspire, but your safety and compliance are important. So, as you head out into the world of construction and contracting, remember to build responsibly and make decisions that stand the test of time. Thanks for joining us today. We'll catch you on the next episode of Beers with Contractors. Until then, cheers to your success.